Bonsoir, je suis enchantée d'être parmi vous ce soir. Good evening, I'm delighted to be here tonight. Mr. Chancellor, it is my honor to present to you Chantal Pontbriand, prominent contemporary art curator and critic. Chantal Pontbriand's incisive criticism and analysis has had an unparalleled impact on the art world since the 1970s. Her work, which explores a question of globalization and artistic heterogeneity, has broken new grounds in critical discourse. She is recognized internationally for her profound knowledge of visual art, dance, and museums. Chantal Pontbriand est cofondatrice de la revue d'art contemporain Parachute, publication d'avant-garde qu'elle a pilotée de 1975 à 2007. Au fil de sa carrière, elle a organisé de nombreuses manifestations internationales d'art contemporain, dont des expositions, des festivals et des colloques dédiés principalement à la photographie, à la vidéo, à la performance, à la danse et à l'installation multimédia. Après avoir conçu plusieurs événements et festivals d'envergure axés sur les arts de la scène, elle cofonde à Montréal le Festival international de Nouvelle Danse, le FIND, qu'elle présidera de 1982 à 2003. Chantal Pontbriand was appointed Head of Exhibition Research and Development at Tate Modern in London in 2010 and more recently founded Pontbriand W.O.R.K.S, We Others and Myself Research Knowledge Systems. She has been Associate Professor at Curatorial Studies at the Sorbonne-Paris IV since 2012. Her most recent publications include Mutations, Perspective on Photography, Parachute, the Anthology, Volumes 1 and 2, The Contemporary, The Common, Art in a Globalizing World, and Perform, How to Do Things Without Words. In 2013, her remarkable work was recognized with a Governor General of Canada Award for an outstanding contribution in the visual and media arts. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of Senate and the Board of Governors, it is my privilege and honor to present to you Chantal Pontbriand so that you may confer upon her the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, honoris causa. Thank you.
And now it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Pontbriand to make her acceptance address. Madame Pontbriand.
Bonsoir. Chancellor Jacques Menard, President Alan Shepard, and Chairman of the Board of Governors Norman Hébert, Dean Catherine Wild, dear graduates, dear friends, there are many here. I'm very, very grateful for this honorary doctorate. Je souhaite vous remercier de tout cœur pour ce doctorat honorifique. Aussi Geneviève Cadieux, artiste que j'admire, avec qui j'ai eu l'honneur et le plaisir de travailler quand nous avons toutes les deux représenté le Canada à la Biennale de Venise en 1990. C'était une toute jeune artiste selon elle à l'époque. Pour moi, elle était déjà grande, mais je me souviens de son insécurité. Je me souviens qu'elle m'a posé la question « Oh Chantal, tu penses vraiment que je peux faire ça? Tu penses que je suis prête? » Et j'ai dit « Oui, oui, absolument, allons-y. » Alors aujourd'hui, je suis ravie que ce grand honneur vienne de Montréal, une ville que je chéris énormément et à laquelle je crois, vu ses grandes qualités sur le plan de sa créativité et de sa qualité de vie. Également que cela vienne tout spécialement de l'Université Concordia, où j'ai eu la chance de donner des séminaires sur l'installation, la vidéo et la performance à la fin des années 70 déjà, et de faire partie du conseil d'administration un peu plus tard de la Leonard and Bina Allen Gallery, qui fait un travail, soulignons-le, de haut niveau. Sa faculté des arts est l'une des mieux cotées sur le plan international. De nombreux professeurs du passé comme du présent sont des artistes pour qui j'ai beaucoup d'admiration et d'amitié. Ils font un travail remarquable et forment des gradués qui représentent un potentiel inouï pour notre pays et sa reconnaissance dans le monde. Nous sommes fiers de vous et vous souhaitons le meilleur dans la poursuite de vos rêves. Faites de Montréal une plaque tournante sur la scène internationale. Allez de par le vaste monde, apprendre ce que c'est que la différence, combien le monde est riche et complexe. Laissez-vous vibrer au rythme des divers continents, apportez-y votre savoir et ramenez-nous le fruit de vos découvertes et de vos recherches. In the last weeks, I have tried to figure out what it could mean for myself to be receiving this honorary doctorate. One could imagine that it has to do most often with marking a moment in time and space, a moment that can single out values, a moment of expanded consciousness, as I sometimes refer to them as such when encountering meaningful works of art. Just as it marks a moment in time, an honorary doctorate has to do with transmission and learning. It so happens that my mother passed away not so long ago, and that amongst the many clippings and photographs she kept in her private archive, we found this typewritten quote by the Indian writer and philosopher Rabindranath Tagore, which particularly moved me. Let me quote him for you. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world is unbroken by barriers, where words come out from the depth of truth, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. I knew my mother read Tagore as I had long ago seen a book of his tucked away on a library shelf in our family house. I did not think that her interest went so far back as 1937, the date that appears on this yellowed little piece of paper. She was just 21 then, close to your age, many of you in this room. My mother's quest for knowledge is one of the precious things she transmitted to me. The phrase, where knowledge is free, in Tagore's poem, especially struck me as being relevant to my own life quest and research. Tagore was preoccupied with the awakening of his country in a world unbroken by barriers, as he says. These powerful words strike a chord for me as they reflect a life in which I have relentlessly searched for the freedom of knowledge and the breaking down of barriers, be they geographical, political, intellectual, or artistic. I became a world traveler as a very young adult, and my work has taken me to all corners of the globe. I have been tracking down people, and places that crystallize emerging ideas and emerging forms. As a child, feeling isolated or limited in that capacity, as we were brought up in a small village, I started a small journal with my classmates. The idea was to travel with our imaginations and to exchange the results. By the time I co-founded Parachute some 15 years later, I was ready to go out into a much larger world, one that would know no geographical and no intellectual limits. The magazine was created to understand contemporaneity, that is, what makes our time special and unique. What language can we develop to better understand and share those ideas? That is the challenge that I set out for myself with others as I was coming out of university. Something had to be done to bring Montreal and Canada to the attention of the world and to dig channels of communication between the world and us. It is with this same energy that I started to curate so many events, performances, concerts, and exhibitions in and out of existing institutions, such as the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, which had recruited me in the 70s to create outreach programs that could bring it to the attention of a wider and younger public. There was a storm that raged through the museum in those years as performance, video, theory, film were introduced into the rather conservative institution. The festivals and events that I put together around that period led me to co-found the FINE, the International New Dance Festival, which brought us the most vibrant artists of the international scene during 20 years and featured all those that were to become our figureheads. Edouard Locke, Marie Chouinard, Linda Gaudreau, who is here tonight. Parachute and the FINE were often the first vehicles to introduce us to the world's most influential players in terms of artists and critics. Many of today's recognized artists were first featured in both. I am proud of this achievement. It is certainly our common legacy to share now. Our understanding of art has much to do with the goals that Parachute and the FINE carried out over decades, taking Montreal as their point of departure. After being at Tate Modern in London in the later years, I realized that my work was based on the exploration of what the Anglo-Saxons call knowledge production. It's almost untranslatable. I recently founded a new company, as Geneviève says, which is called PONTBRIAND W.O.R.K.S, WORK standing for we, others, and myself, research, knowledge, systems. This name I borrowed from my ancestors, who had created a company in Sorel at the end of the 19th century, an important shipyard at the time. They imagined and built machines for the boats being assembled there. I love this name because it describes me in an extended family which is linked to the Quebec soil, but also to the history of invention and imagination. As a critic and curator, I have always been more interested in process and in the workings of than in any final product. I feel in that respect quite close to the immaterial culture that is developing today, where knowledge is taking on a leading role. In a way, my work can be conceived of as knowledge management, and even more so as knowledge sharing, with its concern to uncover the ways of working of a group or an individual and deliver those findings to the world. We cannot progress without searching for the unknown or that which is not yet known. Underlying processes and truths contain the way to the future. You, the graduates of today, are the leaders of tomorrow. You have chosen the path of knowledge to make a better world for yourself and for others. It is now your responsibility to take this world further, to open its barriers, to fight inadequacies and inequities, to find better ways to share the world we live in. It is your privilege as free human beings to make change happen. Make sure you do. Make sure you encourage others to bring their own contribution to whatever field they might choose. Encouraging others, sharing with others is the only way to move. You cannot move alone. The world needs you, others need you, as you need others. But community is not enough to change the world. The development of new knowledge, the sharing of that research is the goal you need to have to make the world change. Changer le monde, c'est difficile. C'est de plus en plus complexe et de plus en plus nécessaire pourtant. Nous devons porter une attention particulière aux enjeux qui sont ceux de notre contemporanéité, un monde à partager, un monde où grandir. C'est la tâche qui nous incombe à tous et pour laquelle je vous souhaite bonne chance et surtout bon courage. Knowledge is a great gift. It is also an ongoing process. Sharing knowledge in order to develop a better world is a democratic process that we cannot dispense with, as Tagore intuited it at the time. It will take courage and determination to pursue the dreams that you set forth for yourselves. As I have gone through multiple states of achieving goals as well as crossing major obstacles, always I've had a little voice inside of me. This little voice I wish to share with you today. Keep it in mind for tomorrow. It will certainly come up handy. And that is, where there's a will, there's a way. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Dr. Pontbriand. Dr. Pontbriand reminded us of a few things. One of them that came to mind as I heard her eloquent words was that the influence which one ends up having one day in one's life, as she has, God knows, begins with a mindset, and it's fueled by passion. And as she put it to us, her mindset began through her imagination. She started traveling while staying here in Montreal with her imagination, which led, as we know, to Parachute and to a life of travels reaching out to the world. Through that, she experienced diversity et la différence des autres, and she also experienced sharing and collaboration, which are the key ingredients, as you know, of creativity and innovation in the arts. She obviously embraced arts in so many forms, la danse, les arts plastiques, la photographie, la littérature, la peinture, et tout ça, faisant tout ça, elle l'a fait un peu comme une personne qui a ses racines ici à Montréal. Et à cet égard-là, Mme Pontbriand est une ambassadrice de Montréal et d'ici du Québec et de nous tous depuis bien longtemps. Elle nous fait honneur aujourd'hui en acceptant de rentrer dans la famille de Concordia. Et parlant de famille, la dernière chose qui me vient à l'esprit, c'est le témoignage qu'elle fait quant à l'influence des parents, l'influence, dans son cas, de sa mère. The influence of parents on children is something which we can't underestimate, as you will realize yourselves and have already, for those of you that have already created a family and felt a family. We have a responsibility to light up our children as her mother did for her. We thank her as well for our gift today of having Mme Pontbriand as an honorary doctorate of Concordia. Thank you beaucoup, Mme Pontbriand.